Now let's build what will probably be the simplest part of our entire process here, and that's this base down here. Most likely this base would be cast and then machined in some way. It would be cast as a big heavy block that's close to the right shape, and then you'd turn it on a lathe to turn it down to exactly the right shape and finish that you want. At least that's what I'm envisioning in my head. So to create that, first let's go to Insert Components, drop it down, say New Part, and then click on the front plane of our assembly to actually place that part in here, such that its front plane is coincident with the front plane of our assembly. Then it's going to create a sketch for us by default. I'm going to hit the red X to discard changes and exit, and then click on here to rename this part our base. That's fine. It's in square brackets, so let's right-click that, save part in external file, and click OK. So now we have a base file outside of our assembly. We'll right-click this and open it in a new window. Insert, Part. Once again, we're going to grab that master model and bring it in. And in this case, really all we need are the surface bodies, right? We actually don't need the unabsorbed sketches. Let's just click OK. And we're left with a very clean viewport. All we have are surfaces. Let's expand our surface bodies here and just grab these two surface bodies that we don't need and go ahead and hit that delete key to create a delete body feature and hit OK. So we're left with just the two surfaces that we need. And let's go to our surfaces, trim surface, and under mutual mode, let's clear that out. Click one surface, then the other. Make sure that keep selections is selected, and then head down to the next box and click on the two pieces that we want to keep. We'll hit OK, and we've now trimmed this down, which looks pretty darn good. Just fine with me. Next, let's go to our appearances and find those transparent appearances. I'll just grab a yellow one and make this thing yellow so we can see what's going on. You see we have black edges here where the surfaces are knit together, and blue edges on the outside edges, aka the naked edges if you're coming from Rhino. That's what they're called in Rhino. And we want to make this into a solid, and there are lots of ways that we could do that. And there's a way that I favor, and that people always ask me why I favor it. Well, let's go to the right plane and create a sketch and demonstrate the way that I like to do this in general, if I have parts that are in draft, which in this case I do. And that is to create a rectangle that's bigger than my part. Doesn't matter how big. I'll take that top plane and make it collinear with the top edge of my box so that I'm sure that it's in exactly the right place. Just make it plenty bigger than my part. Then head up to Features, Extrude Boss. Instead of Blind, I will say Up to Surface, click that surface, and hit OK. That fills in that area as a solid, but keeps that original surface body intact, and then I can hide that and get it out of the way. Now, there are lots of advantages to working in this way. One of them is that I'm certain to be working in draft, and if I make any mistakes with my draft, I put any undercuts without thinking, this will catch me and keep me from making that mistake. Another kind of pragmatic benefit is that it lets me keep this surface body, whereas using thicken or other methods where I would create more surfaces and knit them wouldn't let me keep that surface body. It would consume the surface body. Anyway, there are a lot more advantages. We'll talk about those as they arise. I'll go to the Mirror tool and go to the right plane. And under Bodies to Mirror, choose that body we just created. Make sure that Merge Solids is checked down at the bottom, and then click OK. Then we're left with a full base, and I just need to make sure that this does not cut anyone because it is extremely sharp. Let's go to our Fillet tool. And in the fillet type, I'll choose Face Fillet. And I'm going to do a 2mm fillet, choosing one face, and then the other face. That looks good. Then down in the fillet options below, choose Curvature Continuous, and click OK. That'll give us a nice, clean, rounded edge fillet. Now up here on the top and bottom, we actually don't need anything quite so fancy. I'll just go to my constant radius fillet and put a 1mm fillet on both top and bottom just to make it look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more lifelike. And that's going to be just fine. Now in reality, we would probably have a threaded thing that would come up out of the top of this so that we could screw this in to the rest of the base, the rest of the housing. But you know, in this case, let's just leave it for now. We can add that kind of mechanical detail later on if we want to. We'll close this up, head back to our assembly, and let's start working on the rest of this thing.